Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for connecting to this program. We will now begin an event hosted by Sasakawa Peace Foundation, a public forum on China, SPF China Observer. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. This is SPF China Observer. Thank you very much for joining in this program. At SPF, from March of this year, we began the project entitled Satellite Imagery Analysis, Social Science, especially diplomacy, security. From those aspects, we should collect the data and objective evidence, which are very difficult to be obtained. In this context, the satellite imagery can be an objective evidence. That's why we began this project, utilizing satellite imagery. Economy, society, related problems could be analyzed. We are proceeding with our analysis. The first work that we began is the matter of security, traditional, conventional security-related issue. Today, we are going to discuss the Chinese shipbuilding as well as the status of naval shipbuilding in China. The first contributor to this project was Mr. Ikeda, Vice Admiral, retired. Currently, he is the Senior Fellow of Harvard University Asia Center. Today, across the Pacific Ocean, he is joining from the United States. As discussant, we have a new member of SPF, former JMSDF, Mr. Kawakami, Senior Research Fellow. As Ikeda speaking, sorry, I was wrong. To begin with, we have Vice Admiral Ikeda to begin his presentation.
Thank you. Today, we are to discuss on the status of naval shipbuilding and shipyard facilities of the Chinese Navy. In March this year, on China Observer, I have written a column on the satellite imagery analysis of the Jannan Shipyard in Shanghai. So let me start from the Jannan Shipyard facilities. So far, the PLA, the Navy, had been building the first aircraft carrier Liaoning and the second aircraft carrier Shandong at the Dalian shipyard. The Xinhua news agency has newswired officially in November 2018 on the construction of the Type 003 aircraft carrier, the third carrier for China. USCSIS has made detailed analysis in the satellite imagery, and in May of 2019, it has concluded that the Type 003 aircraft carrier has been started to be built at the Jannan Shipyard. This photograph shows the overview of the Jannan Shipyard in October the year 2020. Type 003 aircraft carrier is being assembled by block construction method at the new assembly facility. And 1 year ago, majority of the blocks that have already been transported to the dry dock, about 2 kilometers a distance. And you can see 2 red circles, and distance between the two is approximately 2 kilometers. So you can see that this is a huge shipyard. The satellite imagery that I will be explaining actually indicates that the very expeditiously, large-scale modification has been conducted at the shipyard where the third aircraft carrier is being built. This imagery is from March 2019. You can see that there are movable the building called environment shelters, as well as 2 gantry cranes, one big and one small, are being installed. And lane number 1 shows some building materials being located, and lane number 2 is where the work for the blocks being constructed, being made. Lane number 3 was still undeveloped, and the marsh was not being dredged yet. The next. This is from December 2019. The major difference between the photo from March is that the dredging of the marsh has already been almost completed. And you can see that the barge and a small transport vessel are being moored at the new quay. And in between lanes 1 and 2, there are conventional cranes. 2 of them have been installed. And you can see that they have been installed for loading and unloading of the barges and the workboats. With the new assembly facility. And the roadside, we can see 2 heavy-duty trucks. So, in addition to transport by sea, transport by land seem also to be employed. This image is from April 2020. The 2 conventional cranes have already been removed, and you can see no barge nor small transport vessels. In already dredged sea, the conventional crane and barge could be confirmed, so as necessary, the barge will be installing the cranes from the sea to the new assembly facility. As compared to the image from December 2019, the bow of the ship is clearly visible. And for lane number 1, the canal side has been well developed, and the premises of lane number 3 is started to be prepared. According to CSIS analysis, from the 24th of May and the 2nd of June of 2020, the blocks have been assembled, and they have already been transferred to the dry dock 2 kilometers apart. So, as you can see, the blocks seen on this image that has been transferred immediately afterwards. The capacity of the shipyard will be influenced by the weight limit of the gantry crane as well as load capacity of the heavy-duty trucks. So as the weight limit and the load capacity will be small, you have to build small blocks to be transported to the dry dock every time, which is quite inefficient. And if the blocks are to be hanging from the crane and welding is to be done, then the accuracy or the precision will be poor. The blocks as large as one you can see on lane 2, if it is being transferred by heavy-duty truck to the dry dock, you can see that the load capacity is quite huge. This image was taken in October of 2020. In this photo, you can see that the new assembly facility is almost complete. Lane number 3 is already being used as assembly facility, and the environment shelters have been moved from lane 2 to lane 3. And the small gantry crane has also been moved to lane 3. And on the dredge sea, the new mooring facility is almost complete. And in the periphery, new building is now being built. Lane 2, you can see new blocks are being located, and inside the environment shelter on lane 3, the assembly of blocks seems to be progressing. In the new quay of the new assembly facility, you can see floating dock is attached alongside. Therefore, the new assembly facility seems to have undergone a major remodeling in line with the construction necessary for Type 003 aircraft carrier. And for this assembly facility, not only on shore, but as the marsh has been dredged, there are 1,000 meters long on both sides, the mooring facility, the quays. But if you think about the efficiency of the construction of ships, lane 1, they perhaps may have wanted to use as dry dock. Normally, gantry crane is straddling over the dry dock as well as side docks. And then on the side dock, you can outfit the equipments and the fittings on the block in a very good precision for the blocks. And you will be able to move by gantry crane sideways, that you can have the blocks to be connected on the dry dock. It will be highly efficient and highly precise. Next, I would like to confirm on the dry docks where Type 003 aircraft carrier is being built. This image is from October 2020, that is to say 1 year ago. You can see the positioning of the new assembly facility and the dry dock. On this image, Type 003 aircraft carrier is now being built, and in the rear side of the dry dock, you can see that Type 055 missile destroyer is now in the dock. And in this image, you will be able to confirm that for the Jannan, the shipyard, there have been large-scale facility is being built for the purpose of constructing a large-scale the warships. And there has been large-scale mooring the quay of 1,000 meters long is seen at the assembly facility. And the large merchant vessel is being moored. And I have been able to see Ohara-san and CSIS to analyze that in the coming 3 to 6 months, that the ship could be launched, the Type 003 aircraft carrier, and the outfittings and repairs could be conducted at this quay. And for the new assembly facility, there's a floating dock being attached, but the floating dock could be used efficiently, but it sways and lurches, so it is not good for the dry dock to build the warships.
This picture is the enlarged portion of the dry dock in the process of construction of Type 003 in October 2020. At the stage of this picture, you can understand that there are 4 ship blocks. Up until this point is the analysis of satellite imagery until October last year. The next pictures onward are those analyzed by Ohara-san. I will briefly introduce the satellite imagery until October, and the detailed discussion will be provided by Ohara-san. Next picture, please. This picture is as of March the 10th this year, the construction status of the ship. On the dry dock, the understructure of the ship is being constructed, and as far as we can see from the imagery, the total length of the ship is 305 meters, the width is 45 meters. On the dock, some of the wiring and some of the piping can be observed. In the understructure of the ship, engines and generators would be located on the deck. Also, at the side deck, the upper structure is installed, divided into 9 blocks. So it is going to be added on to the vessel itself, which is placed on dry dock. Next picture, please. This is the satellite imagery taken on the 26th of April. The 9 blocks are located on the side dock, and they are installed on the upper portion of the ship in order, and you can really see the installation as the upper deck, all of the 9 blocks, and you can see the piping and wiring installation going on. This picture was taken on the 12th of July this year. Engine-related equipment and the wiring within the vessel can be confirmed from this picture. Also, using this imagery, you can, for the first time, clearly confirm the flight deck. Catapult-related equipment, the rail-like lines, 2 lines on the foreground, and on the port side, 1 line. China in 2014 manufactured or experimentally the electromagnetic catapult. Type 3 aircraft carrier is supposed to employ this electromagnetic catapult. On the starboard, the island, lower part of island is being constructed. From this imagery, you can confirm that. Next slide, please. This picture is taken on the 27th of September this year. The 2 catapult lines on the foreground, the port side line structure, upper part of that, it is having an environmental shelter. The core technology, one of the core technology of electromagnetic catapult is a linear motor. In installing that, they don't want the image-related information to be taken by outside parties like satellites and so forth. That's why the environmental shelter is placed. This is the picture taken on the 23rd of October. Above the engine room, the deck is being installed. You can confirm that. And we can understand that engines are already placed. In the port side of the foreground deck, catapult equipment is there, and also on the port side, you can have the environmental shelter covering a catapult equipment. Also, on the starboard side island, already the construction is going on until the upper part. So the status of construction, and there are other blocks belonging to other ships on side the dock. So Type 3 aircraft carrier could be launched in early part of 2022. That is the possibility. Next slide, please. This is a picture taken on the 30th of October. It is near completion. And measured from this picture, the total length of Type 003 carrier, 318 meters. The width is 78 meters. In terms of the total length, it is close to 337 meters, which is the class Gerald R. Ford, U.S. Navy. The 20 meter shorter, but the width is about the same. Lastly, I would like to refer to the construction analysis of Type 3 aircraft carrier by CSIS issued on the 9th of November, the other day, at Jannan Shipyard. For the last couple of months, the military ships construction is very much reduced, and there is much receiving orders for commercial ships, including Japan and various countries of the world. That's why the military ship construction may have declined. That was the analysis. This picture is as of October 2020, and you can confirm about 6 ships are being moored near the center. However, from the image taken on the 23rd of October, we cannot confirm most of the military ships. Also, according to my analysis, that is the new assembly facility, Oceanside, in the quay of 1,000 meters, not military ships, but the large-sized merchant ships are being moored. So it is not according to my analysis that this is the place where the construction and repair of military ships would be done. So, as the CSIS says, that Jannan Shipbuilding is having a more percentage of merchant ships being built there. So, number 4 aircraft carrier of Chinese Navy, when is it going to be launched? We have to pay our attention to that. This completes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Admiral Ikeda, thank you very much. Looking at shipyard in China, how it is developing, utilizing satellite imagery, you have given us very detailed analysis, and as to the Type 003 aircraft carrier, you have been able to follow through on their developments and the speed of the building. Admiral Ikeda will be talking later on the capacity of shipyards in China. So, on analysis made by Admiral Ikeda, I would like to ask the Senior Fellow of the SPF, Mr. Kawakami, please, to introduce to us on other shipyards. Admiral Ikeda, thank you very much for invaluable analysis. This morning, I have watched the Google map this morning, and what has been analyzed by Admiral Ikeda, the new assembly facility still seems to be marsh. So it was indeed very valuable presentation and analysis. What I would like to present today will be 2 things. Firstly, as Admiral Ikeda has presented on the Chinese shipyard, I would also like to speak about that. And secondly, the Type 075 amphibious assault ship is also being built. So in my second part, I would like to mention about this. starting with the shipyard. But before that, looking at the shipyards, let me give you a very brief overview of the building of the warships. China has become the world's largest shipbuilding power, and because of the global financial crisis, there has been the capacity. In 2013, there has been a major change. That is, government of China will continue with the superior shipyards, but the inferior shipyards will be scrapped. This was a drastic measure. And the superior shipyards will be put on the whitelist, and the government will support those shipyards. On the other hand, inferior shipyards would have to change its orientation to the other industries. But then it has once again become the world's #1 shipbuilding. So right now, the shipyards which are remaining would be the superior shipyards. So they will be expanding on their facilities further. China, on building of the warships. In Dalian, at the center, that there is a CSIC, and the CSAC centered on the Shanghai. That have been split up and also to be merged together. Both of these two groups are state invested, but then on competition to try to improve on their capacity, they have been split up and divided. But because of the recession impacting, and it has been merged together in 2019. My personal view is that for these two groups, that having a competition with each other would have been even more efficient with competitive bidding being done. I would like to ask Admiral Ikeda's view later on. And in my second part, my presentation would be on Type 075 amphibious assault ship. Let me move now. The amphibious assault ships in China, as you can see with this image, Type 071 and Type 075 that have been built at Hudong Zonghua, a shipbuilding shipyard. And the basic feature of the amphibious assault ship are quite similar to the United States LPD and LHD. This has been taken in 2019, December. For Hudong Zonghua shipbuilding, you can see the red circle, which is quite similar to the WASP class LHD in the United States. This is the Type 075. And the blue ones are quite similar to class San Antonio LPDs in the US. This is Type 071. These are the frigates, as you can see. So the amphibious assault ship is huge if you compare with the frigates. And the Hudong Zonghua shipbuilding is just like a Jannan Shipyard. It belongs to CSSC. Next. More specifically, looking at the specifications, if you could look at the pink-colored columns for the displacement and length and the beams, you can see that they are quite similar. On the right-hand side, San Antonio class and the Type 071, the Yuzhou class, you can see that they are quite similar as well. This is the comparison between the WASP class and the Type 075 amphibious assault ships. You'll be able to see that they are also quite similar, the displacement and length and beams. And on the right-hand side, the blue part shows the French and the Spanish. And they are quite different. And another feature of the amphibious assault ship is the world record speed in terms of construction. And if you can see the table at the bottom, at the left, the building and launch and test voyage and in service, it is quite speedy, you can see. And this is basing on the normal the vessels. So perhaps it may not be that accurate, but as you can see, the building pace is very fast. Now for information, for American amphibious assault ships, it takes from 2 years or even up to 5 years from launch to placed in service. And the Type 075, the first ship, is now called the Hainan. It has been put into service on April of this year, has been delivered to the South Sea Fleet, the submarines and the frigate, and the amphibious assault ship. They have been simultaneously put in service. And President Xi Jinping has been present at the ceremony. And on the right-hand side, the satellite image was taken on the 11th of November this year. You can see the third vessel of the Type 075 will be soon going into test voyage. And you can see in the dock is the Type 071, the assault ship to be exported to Thailand because they have a contract. So most probably it will be exported to Thailand. So turning next, LCAC, the landing craft air cushion. It is quite similar as well. But in terms of operation, there are big differences between the US and China. That is to say, for the LCAC in China, there are no rotating thrusters. The air cushion at the craft will float on the sea. It is a vehicle designed as such. So just like an airplanes, you need highly sensitive and delicate features, but without the thruster. When they launch or when they are trying to load them, for several tens of centimeters, the worth of difference makes a huge difference. Lastly, the features of the construction of the amphibious assault ships, they have become larger and increase in the number of vehicles on board. On the other hand, for the United States, the number of vehicles are being reduced, and they are increasing the vehicles, ammunition, and payload capacity. That is because they are evolving based upon their past experience. For example, for America class, when they are changed to Bougainville class, there has been the well deck to be built on the rear side with the Navy request. And there will be the ammunition and other payload to be increased, more geared towards the actual battle. On the other hand, for Chinese vessels, they are trying to make the vessel itself as well as the vehicles to a larger size. Now, there are 3 reasons why. Because they have a contract, about $300 million worth with Thailand for Type 071. As compared to the similar sized assault ships, it is about 1/7 or 1/8 the price. And secondly, it is very speedy in terms of shipbuilding, and when fire occurs, and after 4 months, they will be able to go on a training at the voyage. So the recovery time is also very short. And the smoke has been seen on the social media. There has been black smokes coming from the rear as well as from the front side. And the partitions and compartments may not be in that great number. So it could be more commercial type. So we believe that the amphibious assault ship may be geared towards a commercial type. The aircrafts on board, the STOVL, or the operation capacity, is superior for United States, and as to the effective internal design, the United States is much better. So lastly, I would also like to touch upon the prospects going forward. This is perhaps my bold analysis. We have not yet confirmed on the building of the fourth aircraft carrier. And for Type 075, there's a plan for building 8. But the fourth vessel to be built, we have not yet confirmed at the shipyard. So going forward, China is said to have a plan for Type 006, so perhaps making larger, and to make a vessel which will also have the function of the aircraft carrier, or the 20,000 class vessels to be mass-produced to try to cope with or counter the distributed lethality and the expeditionary advanced base operations, which are the strategies of the United States. So China may be trying to counter the moves made by the United States, or perhaps trying to export those vessels overseas. So there could be two possibilities. I would also like to hear the reaction of Admiral Ikeda later. Thank you.
Mr. Kawakami, thank you very much. Shipbuilding situation in China up until the 1990s at shipyards, the technology was not given from elsewhere, and the same types of ships were not built. So frigate ships built at that time were in various types. But now shipyards have gone through various improvements, and people say that there is much improvement from 094 or 095 improved version of frigate is now being built in all shipyards from the latter part of the 1990s. But in the beginning of the 2000s, in Dalian and Jannan shipyards, two vessels of different types were built and put into operation at the same time. So in Jannan shipyard, the integrated design is employed, which is developing in the Navy broadly. So the Liaoning 002 type and Shandong, two ships built originally were based upon the Valyag. It's not the aircraft carrier, Russian type. The Russia called it, it's an air sub-cruiser ship. So they bought from Russia the ships, and then they improved. And then they have the improvement in Liaoning, in Dalian. So Type 003 is going to be built in Jannan. So Dalian shipyard has a Russian type of technology, and Jannan more or less has the designs closer to the Western ship designs and so forth. But that is the situation in terms of the construction of aircraft carrier. As Mr. Kawakami mentioned earlier on, the fire situation. So when the bullet is received, it is assumed on the damage. So the partitions, compartments are made in numerous numbers. Once the water comes in, the damage can be minimized because of the compartments. Smaller compartment will have the entire body of water, and other compartments will not have water. And then the floating capability of the vessel will be maintained, and it can go many hours on ship. But Chinese ships may not have a smaller compartmentalization, so it can be used for a commercial purpose. I think that is the basis of Mr. Kawakami's analysis. There were two questions to Ikeda-san, so I hope the Vice Admiral will respond to those questions, and I have many questions that I would like to ask Mr. Ikeda. So can you have your answers to the two questions posed by Kawakami-san? Can you respond? Yes. Thank you. I understand it. The first question. The types of operation is different in China. Whether it is good or bad, I don't know. I have no way of judging whether it was good for China. But according to CSIS analysis, what we have to draw our attention to is that merchant ships and military ships are made in the same shipyard. It's a fact. And if there is a demand for merchant ships, it might have a pressure on the construction of the military ship. But on the other hand, they will have a lot of money, and they can put a lot of money for the building of the military ships. That's another aspect, that they can spend money for developing new types of military ships and so forth. So merchant ships, Japan is placing order to China. So that can contribute to the bettering of the Chinese warships. Mr. Kawakami mentioned that. I think we have to draw much attention to that. The second question, can you repeat the second question once again? It's about the future direction going forward. Type 3, Type 4, the fourth type of aircraft, the plan is not clear. And then assault landing ships, also the new construction is not being confirmed. So going forward, aircraft carrier, will it become bigger and the assault landing ship will become larger? Is that the direction? Or is it going to be convenient to use a 20,000-ton class? Is that the direction that China is going into? That is my analysis, by the way. So what is your view, Vice Admiral? I'd like to see your opinion, hear your opinion. Regarding the aircraft carrier, earlier on, the next carrier could go into construction. A lot of people discussed that, but we haven't seen anything to illustrate that. If the Jannan Shipyard is to be used, the scale would be about the same. I said that it will be equivalent to the scale of the U.S. Navy. I don't think it can be bigger than that from the operation of aircrafts. So there are some inferior points regarding China compared with the West. So there is a possibility that they will work on improving that. But in terms of the size and scale of the aircraft carrier, I don't think the size is going to be so different. Regarding the assault landing ship, 075 is pretty big. So they will continue to produce that. I think they will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, as for the fourth aircraft carrier, in Chinese media as well, because there are funding difficulties, a delay is being reported, and there has been other reasons been cited, so the program seems to have been postponed. That has been reported. But as for the PLA Navy, they would absolutely want the Type 004, or would it be Type 003, the second aircraft carrier? We do not know, but the fourth aircraft carrier is not being built. I believe there could be some reasons, but the funding difficulty is something difficult to understand. So for Type 003 aircraft carrier, the technologies that are being utilized may be perhaps too underdeveloped. They may be planning to develop new technologies. Then, for the Type 075, the fourth vessel for the amphibious assault ships are not being built. So that perhaps the Chinese authorities may not be satisfied with the existing Type 075 as the amphibious assault the ship. So Admiral Ikeda, so at the Shanghai shipyards, the warships seems to be minimal, and the merchant ships may have being built in a larger number, it seems. But even though they are commercial ships, when the dry docks or side docks are being occupied by those merchant ships, then for naval ships and new warships cannot be built immediately. So once large-scale merchant ship starts to be built, how long would it occupy the dry dock is my question. And during that time, when PLA Navy would like to build in a very fast pace, the war or ships. What could be the alternatives, please, Admiral? About the merchant ships, I do not know how long would it take to build those ships. I am not well versed on that myself. But for the warships, or the escort ships, for example, I have been involved with the IHI at the shipyard. I have been involved with ordering of the ships. One after another, the new ships have been launched. So one vessel or two vessels per year with that pace. So if you would like to have the dry dock ready, then it could be ready in just 1 year. But the order to be placed was 40 vessels. That is the number I have observed. Then with the Jannan Shipyard, it is a huge shipyard, but it would also have to build the merchant ships. So I don't think they would be able to cope with that. So perhaps they would have to plan more smartly and wisely going forward.
Regarding Jannan Shipyard, they have new lands, they have acquired lands, and there they can do the shipbuilding. There is no clear evidence about that. It's only a rumor that they have acquired land. People talk about the possible aircraft carrier construction. So do you think that there is a possibility of expanding the aircraft carrier construction because of the increased order for merchant ships? Yes, I said, in a period of 2 years or some in 2 years, they can build a facility. So as long as they have land to build, there is a good possibility that they will expand their potential.
Thank you. May I now ask a question to Mr. Kawakami? On Type 075 amphibious assault ship, you have compared with the U.S. Navy, the WASP class, or as well as comparing with Japan, as well as ROK and European transport the vessels, as well as the amphibious assault ships. As was mentioned earlier, for Type 075 amphibious assault ships, only 3 have been built, and the fourth, the vessel, is not really clear yet or not visible at all. Do you think that there is some reason? Because the authorities are not satisfied with the Type 075 ships, and what is missing? What are the drawbacks, would you think? If improvement is to be made, how long do you think it would take, please? Thank you. For the amphibious assault ships, it is just like the aircraft carrier. It is a combatant. The aircrafts, as well as vehicles for battle, would have to be put on board. That is the role of the vessels. So the vehicles and ammunition, in a massive amount, also to have been placed on board. So you have to have the routes inside the vessel must be flexibly designed and properly designed. But at this moment in time, the construction has just begun. So for China, they may not have yet well established those designs. So inside the vessel, perhaps China is trying to make improvements everywhere. So how long would it take? It is not that clear. So the 3 vessels they have already built will be put in service and operated, and then think about the possible improvements, I believe.
Thank you very much. In the first part of the 2000, I went to inspect the Chinese ships, and interior structure was almost like merchant ship. I was surprised by that. So that is one thing. And as Vice Admiral Ikeda mentioned, damage control consideration is almost non-existent. So at present, maybe those are the things that they're working on improving, and modern Navy ships would be something that they would like to build. So adding on such improvements, construction activities go on, I suppose. Already I received some questions from the viewers, audience. So please ask your questions using chat box. So please write in your questions to chat box. We will have response from Mr. Ikeda and Mr. Kawakami. The first question. interior structure is very complicated in the case of block engineering method. And as we see from the pictures of the 003, it's almost like merchant ships. It is a simple connection of compartments. Is it possible to build an aircraft like that? Exterior, it looks like an aircraft carrier, but inside, it's almost like merchant ship. I think this is related to Kawakami-san's response, so I would like both of you to respond. First, Vice Admiral Ikeda, can you respond to this question? Yes, let me see. 9 blocks. What is inside 9 blocks? So we can't see it very well. So it may be something like merchant ships. So we don't know. We cannot ascertain from images. As Ohara-san said, Chinese naval ships are becoming more like warships. So probably they are improving on that aspect little by little, I suppose. Thank you. Kawakami-san, how about you? There is a global trend, block engineering method. Block method is being employed. Well, complicated ships can be complicated, or wiring and piping could be very complicated inside, but with the blocks, we can simplify it. It's a design system engineering, so that is the method being established. So we can't say that simply it's blocks, it's merchant ships. You can't say that so simply.
Thank you very much. Turning to next question. For the merchant ship structure seems to be increasing number. For large-scale merchant ships, that could be remodeled and modified into a aircraft carrier. Do you think that there could be a possibility of that? So as necessary, I think remodeling could be done. And right now at the PLA Navy, there's another thing missing, which is, for example, if they're trying to land on Taiwan, the maritime transportation of the ground troops, looking at all the technology and vessels that China have, only 20,000 the troops could be transported at once. So merchant boats could also be utilized for landing purposes. Next question is, this year, there has been published, which is the PLA going across the border, published from the National Defense Academy, that they have not yet reached the capability, which is also related to what I have been discussing. And last year, U.S.-China Economy and Security report by the U.S. Congress, it is at the initial stage, type 075, the amphibious assault ships, only few of them have been launched, means that their landing capability on Taiwan is still in shortage. So I have already given you an answer, but can I ask Admiral Ikeda to respond also? On making aggression into Taiwan, what could be the specific, tactical operation? Looking at the new domains such as cyber as well as the space, they would be combining the different domains. So with amphibious assault ships as well as transport vessels, depending on the numbers as well as capability of those vessels, those alone would not determine whether China could possibly make incursion into Taiwan or not. As Mr. Ohara has just mentioned, type 075, the amphibious assault ships, the number, as well as the type 071, amphibious assault ships, the numbers are too small in number, so that would not be adequate enough. And Kawakami-san, I do agree with what Admiral Ikeda has just mentioned. In transporting the troops, not just the amphibious assault ships, even fishing boats could be utilized because Taiwan, the strait is so narrow. So be it merchant ships, fishing boats, everything could be utilized.
Thank you very much. One more question. 075 assault ships, significance of that. Airborne attack from each side over Taiwan. I think that is possible. The beaching, that is from ocean, the forces have to land. The land area where beaching is possible is very limited. Taiwan will defend that, and in order to land from outside, you have to suppose a lot of damage, and you have to send more forces exceeding that possible damage. Each side, there was no need for thinking from Taiwan side, but with the assault ability being strengthened from the east side, attack is possible for Taiwan. And the air base in Taiwan is concentrated on the east side of the mountains, and the aircrafts are held in mountains. And then the missile attack from the west side could be saved. Aircrafts can be saved, but if attack comes from east, the attack will come directly to the aircrafts and air force of Taiwan. So it's not that immediately beaching strategy would be implemented, but as Mr. Ikeda said, first to disrupt the Taiwan society in gray zones activities, cyber attack and disinformation activities, and jamming the radio waves and so forth. When society is disrupted and fatigued, and then military capability would be put into, and it will not develop to the total forced invasion. That is a possibility. So simply military capability alone could not be the basis of the possibility of a military attack of China to Taiwan. That possibility is very little, it's to begin with, but it's very difficult to assess the ability. Now the labor force regarding needed for the shipbuilding, there is a question. In the past, per ton of a military ship, 1 year amount of work for one person, but with the block engineering method and the modern methodology employed in this modern situation, do you think that is the standard labor power calculation applied? In the case of Chinese shipyards, of course, we don't know the situation very clearly, but considering the Japanese situation, you may be able to answer, Mr. Ikeda, Vice Admiral. It's a very difficult question that a person asked. Per person, how much can they build? It's very difficult to answer in concrete terms. But looking into the reality of the shipyards, the skilled workers, welding skill is asked for. You need that skill. It's indispensable to make a good ship. So foundational capability is very important. That can be said, and that skill and that technique would be the result of the long years of training. One person in an apprenticeship, the skills would be nurtured. That's how you can get the technology level. It will require long years of experience. In Japan, we have the fantastic level of skills. Actually, in the first part of 2000s, Maritime Journal of China discussed how come ships suffer from poor welding of Chinese-made ships. That was an article written at that time. At that time, welding technology was limited. Maybe the technology did not reach the level, as Mr. Ikeda said. But at around that time, for the first time, the block engineering method was introduced. Modern technology was embarked upon in China, and it was reported that it was a breakthrough in Chinese naval construction history. It's been less than 20 years since that time, so shipbuilding technology has gone through a rapid development in China, that I can say. Now, next is a question.
On the hardware, the building of the hardware, what about the software, as well as the aircraft had to be placed on board? To what extent would it be necessary? Do you think that it will be able to catch up? The other day, I myself have updated the article written by Admiral Ikeda, and I have given the analysis, my own analysis, for her aircraft to be put on board for Type 003 aircraft carrier. The type of the aircraft has not been decided yet. For Type 001 Liaoning, as well as Type 002 Jiangnan, the aircrafts that are being put on board, the J-15, the fighter planes, there seems to be some technical glitch to do with the piloting. And according to UK, the manufacturing has been stopped after 20 the aircrafts. For types 001 and 002 have 20 or so aircrafts to be on board, but that demand is not being satisfied yet. That seems to be the present status of a PLA Navy. For Type 003 aircraft carrier, perhaps new type of aircraft to be placed on board. And the reason for why this has been stated is in July of 2021, in the official site, in 2021, new generation of aircraft will be designed and being built. And in 2019, the China, the aircraft manufacturing, the group, have actually presented the silhouette of the fighter plane to be placed on her board. So by the year 2021, the new the aircraft has the test flight could be done, but we have not yet seen any evidence of that. As for the crew to be put on board of the aircraft is in shortage, and that is always being said as the problem. For PLA Navy, the academy, engineering academy, has the video and trying to recruit the pilots, and 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 order of pilots are to be recruited newly, but only a handful could pass the test to be the actual pilots. So in order to have skilled pilots for those aircrafts, it would take a very long time, which means that for PLA Navy, the aircraft carriers capability and looking at the airplanes capabilities, of course you need to look at the structure as well as the outfittings on board as well as engine. You need to look at how they could be operated and mobilized. You need to look at detailed information and data. But for the aircraft carrier, it is for the deployment of aircrafts. So including the aircraft itself as well as the crew, you need to make analysis. And as to the building of the vessels, as Admiral Ikeda has said earlier, they would have to balance with the schedule for building merchant ships. And also funding is another issue. So you need to have a broad-based perspective in looking at the PLA Navy. So lastly, I would like to ask Admiral Ikeda as well as Mr. Kawakami to give us their last word. The PLA Navy, their tactical capability and operational capability going forward. What is being noteworthy these days? So 1 minute each, please.
Vice Admiral Ikeda, please. Thank you. 003, Type 3 aircraft carrier was the topic today. When is it going to be launched? Launched in 2022, and then outfitting, and then commissioning. People say 2024. Maybe 24 is difficult. So that is the point that we must pay attention to. And after that, what kind of operation is it going to follow? That is something that we have to confirm very solidly. That is all. Thank you very much. Kawakami-san, would you please? As was mentioned earlier on, the man-related aspect is very important. Japanese technology will artificially go to China. That's what I hear. So economic security is something that we have to attach great importance to. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We had the participation of Vice Admiral Ikeda, currently the Senior Fellow of Harvard University Asia Center, and also we had the Senior Research Fellow, Mr. Kawakami of SPF, in leading the discussion at SPF China Observer. Going forward, utilizing the satellite images, we would like to pursue the further analysis. We will pursue our discussion regarding such analysis. We would like to communicate broadly to the outside world. Ladies and gentlemen, Vice Admiral Ikeda and Senior Research Fellow Kawakami-san, thank you very much for your participation, and I'd like to thank the viewers for their participation. Thank you.